Welcome back to another episode of Vegan Proteins, Muscles by Brussels Radio. My name is 𝐬𝐝𝐾𝐿.
I'm Ben.
And this is episode 182.
All right, what are we talking about today, 𝐬𝐝𝐾?
Oh, you want to dive right into it, really? Just like that? No whining and dining me?
Okay, all right.
No.
I think you're right. Let's catch up. So last time we talked, you were, I believe, right about to head off to Georgia, or that was what was on the mind for the Peachtree Expo. I think that was the name of it.
Peachtree Road Race.
Peachtree Road Race.
I found out is the second largest race in the country and the oldest 5K. The crazy thing is that it didn't even happen 2 years in a row. Heat advisory. So it's like, but it's this larger than life thing where everyone's just all in the moment, and I bet anything they still were happy to be there even though they didn't run the actual race, which is crazy. The only race bigger than that is the Disney run, which I believe we're going to try to do next year with Vegan Strong.
I've heard a friend who wanted to do that one, and it was like impossible to try to sign up and get into it. It was like super exclusive. She wasn't able to get in the first time or something like that, so they had to add more dates. Crazy. So have you done any other traveling events? I think it was also before you got your eye thing done. That was right before that as well. How's that doing?
It's kind of driving me crazy because they tell you that like you're gonna be able to be fine. You're gonna be seeing in a day and you'll be good to go. And I still got like a fair amount of halos and some crazy light sensitivity going on and a little bit of dry eyes happening. I had really bad vision, so I think that has something to do with it. Plus, my eyes are older. I'm 43, so I think that has something to do with it. But I also had a little bit of a false expectation that I was going to be just fine. From what I know, most of that stuff goes away, but some of it can linger for 6 months and some of it can linger for a couple of years. So that's a little frustrating. I'm not used to having eyes that are very light sensitive, and I'm definitely not used to seeing things in my field of vision that are normally not there. Also, they call it ghosting. Like, you know what floaties are?
Yeah,
right.
Got a couple.
Yeah, and they say that now that you have good vision, they were probably there all along, but now you have to get used to them and your brain has to adapt and learn how to ignore them. So kind of frustrating.
That is frustrating. What else is going on with you?
Well, you tell me. I mean, you competed, and I haven't heard much. We've been busy doing stuff, I would imagine. Yeah. What's it been like after your competition?
Yeah, so I've done 4 now. I did my last one coming up on 3 weeks ago. And my next one will be most likely in 7 weeks. So I've got a nice little stretch, nice little gap here, but nothing too much other than the competitions. It's been a lot of family time, spending time split here between Boston area and Cape Cod. My parents have a house there on Cape Cod, and so I've been going there, hanging out with family, friends, to the extent that I have the energy and mental space to do so, because prep takes a toll on you. It does. So,
what do you think your family's perspective is if you could put yourself in their shoes, because they haven't seen this side of you yet?
When will this be over so we can get our son back?
Sounds about right.
I mean, I'm doing the best that I can, but it's hard. It's like your personality changes, the amount of energy you have to lend towards doing just basic things changes. So I'm trying at the very least to uphold my household duties as I live with them. So that is a very lowest bar that I set for myself, but also just trying to have a lot of self-awareness around how I react to things, how I respond to things, how I treat people, going out of my way to try to be a little bit more gracious and thankful for them understanding, because they are generally very understanding when it comes to the fact that, hey, I'm not joining us for takeout tonight, or I'm not staying up to watch the movie with you guys because I gotta go to bed because I'm tired and I don't have any energy. So I think the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is the social flexibility and having the energy to have more social interaction, because I'm already generally somebody who generally is quite introverted and needs a lot of recharge time and needs my space, and I feel like that only gets exacerbated from doing a contest prep. So
how do you protect that energy when you're competing and you have a hard time existing essentially because you're just drained as it is and people are curious about what you're doing?
I try to just be as honest and upfront about it as possible, like saying, hey, whoever I'm talking to, I'm having a really low energy day. I need to take a nap. I'm sorry, I can't, hang out or do this or do that. And thankfully, I have very supportive and understanding friends and family and social circle, but I could see that being really difficult if you didn't have that. Someone's like, come on, why can't you just, do this or do that, whether that's something related to food or just even hanging out. And I think also having understanding when maybe we would be doing something in terms of how we're interacting that is more physical, and being okay with changing that to something that's a little bit more low key. Like instead of going out and playing sports for 2 hours, we can hang out and play a board game or something like that. So it's, I think for me, been about communicating and just trying to be as honest and open and upfront and apologetic about that as well. Like communicating, this is temporary, this isn't how it's going to be forever, but I need to make sure that I can at least do the basic things like you said that I need to do, which are fulfilling all my basic responsibilities when it comes to the home front, work, and then obviously the contest prep itself, and then trying to maintain my relationships the best that I can, and then communicating that I'll be giving back more to that area once the prep is over at the end of the year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this is a decent segue into what we're talking about, because the idea today, our topic is how to get into bodybuilding, and you're in it, and we're already sort of in a discussion about what it's like, what the outcome is once you're already in it. So why don't we walk all the way back here and start from the beginning? Someone has this idea, right? They're training, they're feeling good about themselves, and they're like, what if I could get in such good shape that I could be nice and shredded and lean, and then I look this way, so why don't I just hop on a stage and compete? So someone's interested. What would be a good starting point for someone like that who's just training, feels good, feels like they can diet themselves down to looking a certain way and they want to look like that on stage? And that's their first, that's what sparked it for them. That's how they became curious about the idea of bodybuilding.
Well, I can share my own personal experience, and then I'll kind of tie that into what I would recommend to somebody or the questions that I would follow up with them. For myself, I didn't even consider bodybuilding competitions something that could be for me until I discovered that you could do it naturally, that you could do it in a drug-tested federation. Because before, my perception of what a bodybuilding competition was, oh, you have to take steroids to compete in bodybuilding. And once I kind of found that out, that was what sparked my own personal interest in it. And I was very early on in my journey and self-aware enough to know that I needed to have some more muscle mass on me before I considered that a viable option, or considered that to be something that I could do competitively. For somebody who feels like, hey, I'm at a point where I've done my time in the gym and this is something that's appealing to me, usually I would start by asking, what is the kind of underlying reason or drive or motivating factor behind why you want to step on a bodybuilding stage or competition? And everyone can have different motivating factors for why that is. But I think this is something that is almost the a priori screening tool as coaches when we get somebody who comes to us who wants to do a competition prep, is trying to figure out, maybe not as directly asking them, why do you want to compete? Sometimes it's as simple as that, but sometimes you can pick up on little cues and behaviors from people that let you know, is this probably going to be the best thing for them, or might it not be? So for instance, if you hear somebody who they're struggling with sticking to their training and their nutrition plan as it is currently, and they want to use a contest prep as like this carrot dangling on the end of the stick to get them to commit to a goal and what they're doing. The reason that I think oftentimes this ends up backfiring is because even if you do achieve the desired outcome and you do get to stage, which is not a given, it's not a given at all. You don't see the amount of people who say that they're going to do a show and they're not there on show day because the trials and tribulations were too much to overcome. But once they no longer have that carrot dangling in front of them, that post-show period can turn into a nightmare. And I don't want to be hyperbolic with this, but really, especially if we're talking like male bodybuilder levels of lean, it's not uncommon to hear people say, oh, I put on 30, 40, 50 pounds in a matter of weeks after my show because I just couldn't stop eating. And now I have a terrible self-image. My self-efficacy is shot. My confidence is shot. And they really develop this negative relationship, not only with the sport, but with their body and their eating behaviors. And so it's serious business. It's not something to mess around with. And so ascertaining why somebody wants to compete, if it's for social media recognition or fame or clout or getting compliments from people, kind of a similar thing. Maybe that gets you, through some hard days, but ultimately, if the result or the placing or the reason that you're doing it is more external in nature as opposed to internal, I want to do this to show myself that I can do something difficult, or I want to use this as a means of self-improvement in some way and see how that carries over to other aspects of my life. It could be so many different things. I want to show my kids that you can do this at 50 or what, there's so many, I think, valid reasons for wanting to do a contest prep. I'm not going to say that there's an invalid reason, but maybe for some reasons carry more risk than others. So I would first try to get to the bottom of why somebody wants to do a competition. That would probably be the first step when I hear somebody express to me, I'm thinking about doing a show. I would say, okay, interesting. Tell me more. How did you come to that conclusion? Did a trainer in your gym say, hey, you look like you could be 4 weeks out, 6 weeks out, 8 weeks out? I'll get you there. You just got to pay me. And those are the most dangerous kind of situations. We actually had one of those recently come up, and thankfully this individual was self-aware enough to know that, hey, this isn't the right approach. And so they came to us, and that was one of the best things that they could have done. But yeah, it's sad. The story is all too common where you get that a prep coach could be in person, could be online. Hard to even call them a coach sometimes if they're putting people through this sort of thing. They're a trainer who did one show, and now they think that they can prep anybody in 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks. So outdated practices, and maybe they're not setting people up for success. So there's so many things that go into it.
For sure. It does help to think about the external reasons why you want to do something, because it gets your wheels spinning and puts you in a better place where you're more likely to have a good experience. You're more likely to think about what you're doing, and you give yourself a chance to see if you really want to do it. So say you have your external reasons. It's self-improvement. It's seeing how far you can take something. It is putting on more muscle. It's seeing what you can get your body to look like based on what your body's capable of. Say you get all those things and you have now officially started to dip your toes in the water with the idea, and you start to look into the bodybuilding world. Where are some places where you would suggest someone begin to look at, and things that you would suggest? Aside from what we put out there, obviously.
I think getting a coach is a big one. It can be done, the self-coaching thing, but if you are just starting to explore that world, the amount of fast tracking that you can get by getting someone in your corner who has done this before with hundreds of people, like what we've done here at VeganProteins, that not only will take your own personal knowledge and confidence in the process to another level, but it will allow you to avoid some of these pitfalls and mistakes that competitors often fall into. So the first thing I would say is hire a coach, because they're going to be able to, hopefully you have some time to work together before the contest prep. I'll say that as well. That would be something that I would recommend people consider is, hey, do you have a specific show that you're thinking about doing, or a list of shows? Do you know okay, like this is the area that I'm in. These are some organizations or federations that I'm interested in competing with. Do you know anybody who's done any of them locally? Can you talk to them to see what their experience was? One of the nice things about having access to the internet and social media these days is that you're not limited to your immediate surroundings. So you don't have to hire the local prep coach. You can go and outsource. You can hire somebody online. And it can be tough. It can be really tough to know who is a good source of information and who can you trust. But I think when you do search out a coach, talk to their clients, see the people that they have worked with, try to find them, look at their testimonials, look at the people that they've worked with, talk to them. Hey, what was your experience working with this coach for this prep? That'll do a lot. If you can talk to 3, 4, 5 of their previous clients, and if you're considering working with a coach, you should be able to ask them, hey, could you, refer me out to a couple clients of yours that you've worked with in the past? Or preferably, you would be able to just kind of like find their clients yourself and, send them a message or something like that. Because, yeah, the coach could maybe give you some of their clients that they did well with and not give you some of the ones that they maybe didn't treat so well. So I'd say talking to their clients is a good thing. See the information that they're putting out. See if you kind of think you might vibe with their personality or their general philosophy. Are they evidence-based? Are they putting out information that, and again, that's something that can be hard to know if you're just starting out. So it's tricky. I'm trying to think back to how did I parse out good source of information versus an inaccurate source of information, and I can see why a lot of people fall into these pitfalls of hiring the coach. But I would say if you get somebody who's trying to rush you into a contest prep, or they're trying to really push for you to do something and they're not giving you the autonomy to make that decision yourself about what your timeline looks like, I would say that would be a major red flag for me. So somebody who's a pushy coach, somebody who doesn't want you to talk to previous clients that they've worked with, those would be things to avoid. Things to look for would be basically the opposite of that. Their clients have good things to say about them. They have a lot of experience doing it. They're well established. Those would be some things that I look at. I know that all went into just one thing of hiring a coach, but I think hiring a coach is such a massive part of the process that you really want to give it your due diligence, because this is somebody you could be working with for your entire competitive career, potentially. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. So I've heard 2 things so far. The external reasons and making sure you focus on that, because you probably have them and you don't even realize if you haven't thought about them yet. And then finding someone who can fast track you and help you avoid blind spots, because they know they have the experience, the resources, they can help you get out of your own head and get out of your own way and make the right choices. The third thing, the thing that I'm beginning to think about, is understanding what you're getting into before the fact.
Informed consent.
Exactly. And there's really no way that you can truly know until you experience it, like any experience in life. But a little bit of heads up from someone and a fair amount of digging on your own to really try to wrap your head around what competing is like can go a long way for your expectations, for doing a better job once you're actually going through it, and understanding just the toll that it's going to take. It's not meant to scare you away from something. It's not meant to shame you away from doing something. It's not meant to discourage you in any way. It's literally just so that you're clear on what you're doing. And you see it all the time in this industry. People already got more than one foot in the door. They're already full-blown preparing for a competition without the slightest idea of what they're getting into. Even those who are mostly aware, like I'll have a conversation with someone, I'll be like, listen, you might not be able to get it up in 6 months from now because your testosterone is going to be clocking in at like 250. And their wife is sitting there right next to them. I'm like, you hear that, right? Like I know that's direct and blunt, but that's just one small example. Like these are really important things to say because they can happen. And I understand, some things are a little touchy, but those real risks, they should be discussed People should be aware of just how taxing it is on your body and the consequences that that can have to the relationships in your life and to your own physical health and all that temporarily. As a natural bodybuilder, fortunately, you can get back to baseline completely in about 6 months, and you can be more than 50% back to baseline in about 8 weeks when you do it properly. When you don't, I'm exaggerating here, but it could be like a death sentence, meaning like you can find yourself repeating patterns that you established because you started prepping that you just cannot seem to undo that easily, or if sometimes not at all. And rather than blaming the competitor and saying which came first, the person that was attracted to the extreme thing or the extreme thing that put them in a place where they couldn't get out of it, I think that's a crock. I think that's BS. It takes a certain kind of person to want to be competitive, and it takes a certain kind of person to want to do something extreme. So if you are that person, you might as well do it the safest, healthiest, and most effective way possible. So that after the fact, you could do it again if you want. And if you choose to not do it, you could walk away from it and be like, that was the best experience it could have possibly been because I knew what I was getting into. I sought out support. I did it for the right reasons. And yeah, in this hypothetical, I regret what I did. I don't like how that felt, and I wouldn't do it again in that kind of hypothetical. But I did everything I could to do it as healthily as possible. And now after the fact, maybe I got some stuff I need to work on to make sure that like my mental health is where I want it to be, my physical health is where I want it to be, and I feel good. But like, this didn't wreck me. Because if you don't think about this stuff, you might not even realize how much it messed you up. But it definitely can. Because you are literally putting your body and your mind through the ringer to do something. And unfortunately, that can have lasting repercussions if you don't get into it in a responsible way.
Man, you're preaching to the choir here. I don't have too much to add on that other than I think, like you said at the start of that, expectations are really important. So knowing what category do you want to do, because that's going to require different levels of leanness and therefore different levels of sacrifice and different levels of physiological adaptations that occur. Like the example that I gave, difference between a male bodybuilder and woman's bikini competitor. Those are going to be two different, subjectively those could feel equally as difficult to those people, but from a hormonal or physiological perspective, there's going to be less of a different effect on one's body and maybe a different amount of time that it takes you to get back to baseline. Every individual is different, so obviously context dependent, but that's one thing. Like you said, knowing how it's going to impact not just you, but the people around you. That's really big too, making sure that you have their consent, not just your own consent. If you're somebody who's in a partnership or you have kids, there's so many things to consider there. And if you kind of, along the lines that you were saying, if you go in blind without these expectations, then you really don't know what you're setting yourself up for. And sometimes you get in so deep, you get this tunnel vision. It's like, I'm going to keep going no matter what. And you truly don't understand what could potentially be on the other side of that. And that can be scary.
And if you are going to have tunnel vision, at least have someone in your corner that is not going to have tunnel vision so that they can help you make the right moves. Because sometimes a little bit of tunnel vision can go a long way when you really want to do something, and you don't want to get someone going through 10 different scenarios and 15 different thoughts about something if it's going to disturb their process and make it harder for them to commit. I get that. But if you are that kind of person, and I feel like sometimes you kind of need to be. You don't really want to take someone out of that comfort zone necessarily, but you might as well have someone else that's been through it, that has thought about all this stuff after the fact because they've experienced it many times over themselves, with others, et cetera, so that they'll make sure that you make the right moves. Put it that way.
Yeah, it's hard to stay objective. Very, very hard. Your mind starts to play tricks on you, and you start to think things that are not true and that you wouldn't think if you had somebody kind of in your corner telling you, like, I know you feels this way right now. I've been in your seat, but this is not actually, the way that you look, or whatever it might be. You need to, I know it feels like you're wife is treating you unfairly right now, but you're being an asshole and you need to correct your behavior. Like sometimes
crack my head on that definitely didn't happen to me.
Like sometimes it takes that outside perspective, that unbiased person to say those things to you, because you might not want to hear it directly from that person or from the people around you, or you might think it's not as bad as it is. So it's kind of another reason that having a coach or someone in your corner is kind of a necessity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For sure. You mentioned the different kinds of divisions. Can you elaborate? Tell me the different ideas around that.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to consider if you want to compete. So it's always interesting to hear where people are coming from when they how did you discover bodybuilding? Was it a friend at your gym said, hey, let's do this show together? Was it you saw someone on social media compete and you kind of drew you towards that? It's hard to know where someone's coming from, but generally there are a few different male and female divisions or categories, and what that means is that the judges who are making notes on you when you're up there on the stage and they're giving you a score, it's a competition at the end of the day, they are looking for certain criteria, and there are different divisions you can choose to compete in. So there's male bodybuilding, where they have you in the banana boat or whatever, the speedos, the posing trunks, which is the division that requires the most level of leanness, the most amount of muscles, the most extreme. But generally, judges across all categories are looking for some degree of muscular development in different places. They're looking for some degree of muscle separation, conditioning, leanness. These are all kind of the same things. Tonedness, if you want to use that term, in different areas. They're looking for how defined can we see these different muscles. They're looking for a general shape or structure. So usually that is having a narrower waist, having a wider kind of upper body and lower body, not wide in the sense of having body fat, but wide in that it creates this kind of illusion, this X frame, this taper. This might sound very wishy-washy, so so I think it's looking at, hey, I think it matters, again, why are you getting into bodybuilding? If it's to be competitive, you might choose your division based off of the way that your body looks and the way that you are structured, which might require somebody to give an outside perspective on what category they think fits you best. But you might say, hey, I understand that this might be the best for me based on my shape, but I really feel called to this other division or this other category. And that's just a conversation that you need to have with yourself and with your coach about what are your expectations. Is it to be the most competitive? Is it to enjoy the process and get the most out of it myself? Because that can also influence what comes before the contest. Like if you want to do really well in figure and you don't have the widest upper body, then hey, we need to focus on building those delts and building those lats before we get you up on stage, if your goal is to be really competitive. If your goal is to just experience what it is to get up on stage, then that's a different conversation. So I think it's determining, what do you want to get out of the competition? What categories kind of appeal to you? Because you might look at one category and say, oh, I definitely don't want to do that. I don't want to be in heels, or I don't want to wear a two-piece. I don't want to show, I just want to wear the board shorts. I don't really want to have my legs judged as much. So there's all these different considerations and factors in terms of what division you choose to compete in. So I think it's often just weighing it up. What's most important to you? Is it being competitive? What are the different ramifications that this might have as you go from less and more extreme requirements in terms of how lean you need to get, how muscular you need to be, because that'll impact everything that comes beforehand, and that'll impact what your expectations are going in, not just from a placings perspective, but what you can expect from your body and physiologically, the side effects that come with the prep.
Yeah, the different divisions matter, and there's also a certain level of stage presence that you need to consider, because certain divisions will require you to be a lot more well practiced with posing and have a lot more endurance, meaning you have to hold your poses for a longer period of time. And certain divisions will require you to spend a lot more time on presentation, right? Even if you're not necessarily judged on it, it is part of the process. So you might as well encourage your athlete to consider it, the different whatever. And then eventually, when you take something far enough, I'm thinking specifically with bodybuilding, the men's bodybuilding division, women's as well. It's just, you have pro, and once you go pro, you actually are scored on your routine, for example. So you might as well get into it.
Yeah. That is a good consideration, is how you present yourself on stage, because as a first-time competitor, it's very easy to get up there and to be looking around. You're doing the wrong things with your posing. So again, kind of another nudge towards hiring somebody who can help you with posing, who can help you with presentations, who can help you feel confident up there. So when you get up there, you're smiling, you look like you're having a good time. That matters. How you carry yourself on stage matters as well. So I would say, know what to expect on the day. That'll help a lot with your confidence. Know, hey, generally how do shows run, which just kind of put something into my head. And that is, if you're interested in bodybuilding, go to a show. Go to a couple shows. Go to an OCB show. Go to a WNBF show. Go to a INBA show. Go to all these different shows and see, okay, do I like the vibe of the organization? Do I like the vibe of the promoter? Do I like the vibe of the specific show? If it's a year, if you can say, hey, I want to do this show in a year, and you can actually go to that show and see exactly, obviously some things change year to year, but as best as you can, what that's going to be like. Talk to the competitors that were there. Hey, how was the show? How was your show day experience? Because they all run a little bit differently, and try to understand what actually takes place on show day. What's the tanning process like? What is it like to get your bikini, order your suit? That's another thing, the financial cost of competing. We haven't even delved into that yet either.
Go for it.
Financially, are you in a place to compete? Because not only are you hiring a coach, which comes with its own cost associated, I would argue it's pretty much a necessary thing, but also the tanning fees, the polygraph fees, so these are drug testing that they do, the hotel fees, the travel fees, the food that you're going to, you know, obviously, we're bodybuilders, we eat a certain way, so you're going to be spending money on food regardless, but potentially you might need to, that might be a consideration as well, just that's always a consideration. What else goes into it? Is there anything I'm missing out? Jewelry, I guess, for the female competitors.
Different kinds of coaches, posing coaches in person, posing clinics. Yeah.
The suits can be a really big one, especially for the female competitors. You could be looking at a couple hundred. I've heard going up to close to $1,000 for a suit potentially. So, it's definitely something to consider. There isn't another benefit, I think, to competing drug-free is you don't have to spend exorbitant money on supplements and enhancements, which I think can be a considerable cost for the other side, the other side of the sport. So that's something that is nice about natural bodybuilding. Gym membership, but you're already likely paying for that or whatever equipment that you need access to. So honestly, not that much changes from like the money that you'll need to spend on like a membership or food. And if you already have a coach, then it's probably not going to change too much either. But I think maybe a little bit more attention or if you want them to come to your show or something like that, sure. But I think the main costs associated are usually with travel, registration fees for the organization, show fees, photography, if you want to get photos, professional photos. Yeah, there's a lot of little things that add up and go into it. And it's something to consider, because if financially you're not in a place right now that is stable enough to, like, you're already kind of feeling like things are tight, maybe it's not the best time to compete. Maybe you could look at doing it in a year from now and doing a nice build and setting yourself up nicely for a show in a year. So I think it's something that has to be considered, especially if you have a family, you have kids, you have financial obligations. It's not a joke. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned there's two thoughts I'm thinking about. The first one I want to bring out is timing, because to me it seems like an impulsive thing when someone gets the itch and they want to do it. And I find it challenging to hold someone back. So rather than telling them, hey, you shouldn't compete right now, I walk them through two different scenarios. Like, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think is going to happen if someone reaches out to me and they want to compete. Mm-hmm. If you choose to compete 4 months from now, and I'll tell you what's going to happen, what I think is going to happen if you choose to compete a year from now. Which one do you prefer? And it's their choice.
It's huge. I think that comes back to the informed consent and the autonomy. Like, you're giving them the knowledge and the tools and the information to make their own decision, and you're not saying, hey, all right, let's get you in there right now. Let's do it. 8 weeks, let's go. You can say, hey, this is an option. We can do this, but these are the pros and the cons and the risks associated. And if you ask me, like, maybe this second option, you would be more competitive if that's something that you care about. But we can, I'll leave it up to you. And that way you can nudge them in a certain direction without necessarily making the decision for them. Because like you said, I think it's huge for that person to be able to come to that themselves and feel good about the decision that they're making, as opposed to feeling like you push them to do one thing or another thing.
Exactly. Sometimes they do choose the fast thing that isn't necessarily the best outcome, and you coach them and you support them. They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So obviously you want to consider nudging them in the direction where they'll have the chance of being the most competitive, and they'll get the chance to do the most work on their body possible to get out there. But sometimes someone doesn't want that. Sometimes someone wants it right away because they want to invest in what they're doing. They're ready to do it, and they're going to, but as long as they know what they're getting into, then it's okay. But there is also the matter of sometimes you do in fact need to tell someone, hey, you're not in a position to do this. And that's a hard conversation to have. But those are conversations you need to have with people who are looking to compete too. And tell them straight up, you go out there, you're not going to be stage ready. You have to be willing to. There are athletes that go out that are not stage ready, but they don't realize it. So I think that's another thing too. Again, you're not necessarily telling someone to not do something, but being like, hey, you can go out there in whatever 4 to 8 weeks from now, but you're not going to be ready, and you're going to look like you're not ready. But sometimes someone will say, yes, I'm okay with that. For me, this is about a place to showcase my transformation. I just lost 75 pounds. I'm going to lose this last 10. I know I need to lose. I'm just talking with weight just to explain things easily. Sure. I know I need to lose at least 25, 30, but I'm going to lose another 10. I'm going to go on stage, because to me, that's what this is about. It's about showing my transformation. I realize that I'm not going into a transformation group and I'm going into physique or this or that. And I know some part of that is a little off as far as the stage in sport, but it means something to me. And it's a pretty supportive culture. And as long as that person knows what they're getting into when they step up there, I feel like that's okay.
I would say so. Yeah. I'd say the bigger thing is usually if somebody is dead set on competing, and the reason that you maybe think they shouldn't compete isn't necessarily that they might not be ready in time. Of course, having to push them too much too soon. You can let them know the risks and the side effects, but I think it's more often if psychologically you feel like this competing would not be a good idea for this person, or you've been working with them, their relationship status, or the people around them, and you're like, dude, I gotta be honest, knowing your situation and all the stuff you're going through right now, a prep is not a good idea. And there could be some scenarios in which you just can't necessarily, you have to say, I'm sorry, I can't in good faith or in good conscience, sign on to this. And that can be really hard, because if somebody is dead set on it, like you said, even if you've been working with them, they could leave you. As a client, they might say, all right, I'm going to go find somebody who is going to prep me. And that's unfortunate, but I think you have to be willing to draw the line somewhere. And if you feel like you're going to be putting this person's mental health or physical health or emotional health, financial health even, at risk by saying yes to them doing a prep, basically if they're in kind of rocky straits as it is and they're trying to use a prep to fix things, I think when you try to use a prep as a Band-Aid to cover something up, it's usually not going to end well. And you have to be able to say, I'm sorry, because I want what's best for you, I'm going to say, I'm not going to do this. And that can be a really hard line to tease out as a coach. Is this person's going to go to someone else and they're going to get a bad experience, so I need to kind of say yes and try to help them do it the best way possible, versus no, I can't in good faith sign on to this. So it's tricky when you get those kind of situations.
It is. Yeah, there are a lot of difficult conversations that you have to have with potential competitors for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes they have no idea, and it rubs them the wrong way, and they're going to go off and do their own thing anyway. But it's your responsibility for sure to at least let them know.
So I think we talked a lot about the potential risks and consequences and harms of competing, which I think is good, because that's what people need to know. Because what is often glamorized is like, you're up on stage, you got your trophies, your medals, maybe it's the post-show meal with the guy hitting the front double biceps in front of the plate of food or something like that. But I think it would be good also to touch on some of the really positive things that can come out of competing, so that we're not completely painting it in, we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't feel like there was something good to come out of it. So what do you feel like maybe you've gotten out of bodybuilding, and something that you see consistently with the people that you work with who end up really enjoying the sport? What are they getting out of it?
When something happens, whether you choose it or not, and it puts you in a place where you're under pressure, you realize just how much more you're actually capable of. You become resilient. And whether it's something for good reason, whether it's something that is for bad reason, whether it's something you choose, whether it's something that you could walk away from free will wise, but it's not something you're necessarily choosing. Regardless, like, when you become resilient, you grow. There is growth in resiliency. Bodybuilding tests you, and it makes you realize just how much more you're actually capable of. Because you have to go through your same normal routine, but now you have a whole lot more to do with a whole lot less energy. So what are you going to do? What is human nature going to do for you in a situation like that? Well, you're going to become a more efficient person with your time. Now, obviously, the downside is that you may not be able to develop that skill fast enough and be able to compete well. And that's where the negative comes in. But with the positive is that you will grow. You will be able to do something that requires more of your time. You will be able to do something that requires more of your energy, all while having less energy. And what that does to the rest of your routine that has nothing to do with bodybuilding is you become better at everything you're already doing. You become more efficient in everything you're already doing. And on top of that, even though you have less time to do everything you're already doing, and you have less energy, and on top of that all, you still learn how to bodybuild and spend a lot of time on that. So if you ask me what bodybuilding does for someone, it basically teaches them how to be superhuman. It teaches them what they're truly capable of. It tests every fiber of your being, essentially. And then when you're not bodybuilding, guess what you do? Guess what you get to do with all that energy that you poured into being able to bodybuild and life? You get to live your life like that, whether you choose to continue bodybuilding or not. And you get your time back, you get your energy back, and you realize just what you're truly capable of when you're not competing, and whether you're bodybuilding or not. And to me, that's just incredible. It's like a gift. It's like, look what you get to do with your life because you chose to bodybuild. I think that's pretty freaking cool.
Turns life on easy mode after you've done a bodybuilding camp. Yeah.
People tend to do some pretty incredible things after they bodybuild. They take on new projects that they didn't think they were capable of, or didn't even dream of, or didn't even think about. They start businesses. They start relationships. Someone who's able to compete successfully is empowered to do more things, and their confidence grows, this and that. I think there's a lot of positive when it comes to competing.
I think even if you decide that the sport isn't for you, the fact that you got through it and you were like, I made it to the end and I did what I set out to do, that can be huge as well. You can say, yeah, bodybuilding wasn't for me. Oh, I didn't like getting up on stage with the tan and the suit and the posing and everything. But what this taught me about myself, and the resilience and the grit and the fact that I can dig deep when my back is against the wall, that is something that you'll carry with you through the rest of your life. And so I'd say for anyone who's considering bodybuilding, once you've checked all these boxes, you've done the prerequisite work to make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into, go for it. See what it's like. See if you like it. You might fall in love with it. Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Vegan Proteins Muscles by Brussels Radio. If you want to get in contact with us, head over to VeganProteins.com. Click the contact link. One of our coaches will get in touch with you. We love to work one-on-one with people. This is what we do. We're bodybuilding prep coaches. So if this conversation has appealed to you in any way, kind of piqued your interest, you're interested in learning more about the sport, get in touch with us. We'd love to help you out at Vegan Proteins, Muscles by Brussels, everywhere on the socials. So check us out there. You can get in touch with us there as well. This has been episode 182. I'm Ben.
And I'm 𝐬𝐿𝐫𝐿.
And we'll see you in the next one.